The movie starts with Michal in a waiting room with two other women. She soon enters another room to see a woman who can supposedly help with her dilemma. The woman asks her how badly she'd like to get married, and Michal replies that she's quite desperate. The woman counters that Michal doesn't look quite desperate. The woman has a son who Michal met earlier, named Shimmy. He owns an event hall in Jerusalem used for weddings. She asks Michal to help her out with the dough she'd been kneading, and Michal obliges. Shimmy's mother wants her to put much effort into kneading, but Michal confuses effort for beating the crap out of the poor dough. She's been waiting 11 years to get married. Shimmy's mother beckons her to let the dough be, and come sit opposite her. She then asks Michal again what she really wants, to which she replies that she would like to get married. Shimmy's mother is still not convinced and wants her to think about it. Michal voices she doesn't want to be alone, and although Shimmy's mother isn't feeling her response, she dips her thumb into a bowl of fish blood and is about to smear it on Michal's face. Michal pulls away because she doesn't want stinky fish juice on her. But Shimmy's mother asserts that if Michal really doesn't want fish juice on her face, then Michal shouldn't have sought her. Michal concedes, and Shimmy's mother smears across her cheek. After much pushing, Michal opens up that she just wants to fit in with the rest of their society. She's tired of navigating life alone, and wants a partner to navigate it with. While she opens up, Shimmy's mother smears more blood and assures her she has all she desires. Shimmy's mother then hands over a wipe to clean her face with. Shimmy can go ahead and write her a deal for her wedding. Sometime later, Michal has someone, and his name is Gidi. They are at a table for food tasting. Michal probes that Gidi must have something on his chest that he needs to offload. Gidi is annoyed, expressing he's totally fine, and Michal needs to stop being so suffocating. They both nervously laugh it off, and Shimmy brings more dishes to the table, mentioning that he'll be in his office if they need more of his assistance. The tension between the couple is yet to dissipate, and Michal probes again, because she's sure there's an issue. Gidi has been mean and distant since their engagement. Gidi voices that he's 36 and about to make a great decision. She's just looking for a fight, and the so-called distance is normal. Michal wants him to come clean with her and keeps pushing for the truth because she knows something is off. She would rather have the truth than be protected, and Gidi feels cornered, until finally, he blurts out what she needs to know. He doesn't love her. It's a shock that breaks Michal down in tears, but also relieves her enough to thank him for being honest. Michal's sisters and roommate are also in shock when she tells them. One gives her a hug, and Ziva, her roommate, opines that Gidi is just in a rough patch and will call to apologize because he didn't mean it. Noam, one of Michal's sisters, thinks Michal should call Gidi, but that's the least Michal wants to do. Michal opens up to another sister who's handicapped. She does end up calling Gidi several times, but he's bent on ignoring her. She's frustrated knowing she's seen so many guys in the past 10 years and nothing fruitful has come out yet. She wonders if she's just ugly and has no idea what to do now. Her sister tells her to quit searching, and a broken Michal tries to wrap her head around it. Their mom calls, and the conversation carries a sense of urgency. Michal has to retrieve a screaming Noam who could get arrested by the police if she keeps up the aggression. Noam defends that she has every right to be intense because she's dealing with her husband. Michal doesn't care as far as Noam can go about her marriage in a less drama-filled way. Noam mentions that there's progress, even though it might not look like it, and Michal doesn't need to keep coming to her aid. Michal relays to Fagi that she wants to go down with Noam, and Noam is so confident that her toxic relationship will somehow end up fine. Fagi comments that Noam is being needy to her own detriment. Fagi has a date to meet up with, the arrangement set up by Rabbi Band, a Japanese guy who converted, but Fagi has no interest in it. She chooses not to honor the setup, even with Michal's encouragement. She's confident she can get someone else, and it won't hurt to turn this one down. Michal admits that she doesn't see herself going back to get fixed with a new guy to date. Time spanning out another wasted year, or another decade. What she needs is a change. Michal goes to see Shimmy in his event hall. She walks in while he's rehearsing a number on the piano, singing from the depths of his heart. Her chuckle makes her presence known, and Shimmy wants to know what she finds so funny. She points out he'd said gloom instead of the groom in the song, and it momentarily gave the song a different vibe, making her wonder if he's single or divorced. Shimmy is actually married, and Michal apologizes for guessing wrong. Shimmy wants to know why she's coming, and she answers that she'd like to reserve the hall for guests for her upcoming wedding. Shimmy is aware she's no longer getting married to Gidi, and seeks to know why she's in the mood to pull a stunt. She remains adamant that she is getting married, and she needs the hall booked and ready. She goes for the 8th night of Hanukkah, 22 days from then. Shimmy names his price, and Michal hands him the money. He calls her a character, hoping her mental health is still in check. She affirms that it is. There's still no groom, but she can tick off that she has a hall, a dress, and an apartment that's almost ready. It's left to God to provide her with a man in 22 days' time. Wow, Shimmy's mother was wrong because Michal is very desperate. Marta does a dress fitting on Michal. Feige is also there to announce that Michal has gone loony and wants to get married when she has no groom. Michal insists that a groom will come because God will get it done, all by the end of Hanukkah. Marta reads it as arrogance, but Michal affirms it's faith. There's no reason for her to keep being alone, and if God is really not cruel, and the verse from the Talmud is true, then she'll get what she wants. All she has to do is exercise faith, as it's the one thing she's struggled with. Michal has Feige's support. Michal is driving her petting zoo van when she voices that she's quite nervous. She stops in the middle of the road so Feige can take over driving. At Michal's request, Feige picks a random number of 2, meaning they'll need to call 2 matchmakers into play. Michal is on a date with a guy and has reasons to ripple out with laughter. Her date comments she has such beautiful laughter, and he's intrigued. He decides to propose to her, and Michal is stunned because he hasn't looked at her once, nor does he really know her, as it's only been 2 hours since they met. He explains that he won't look at any woman who isn't his wife, and will only look at any woman who becomes his wife. Michal deems her date, Ronan, more dingy than she thought she was, and it feels like it's a match from heaven. She decides she'll say yes to his proposal, only if he can look at her. Ronan feels it's a trick to get him to look, but she promises it's not, and they're set to be wed on the 8th day of Hanukkah. Ronan starts to fidget, feeling like he's being put through some sort of impromptu test. It's never been this way for him before. Usually he goes on dates and tells every girl they're special, then he proposes. He believes God will make the right girl say yes to him without a hassle. Michal is short of words. She thought she'd finally met someone sane. Confusing because we thought she liked them loony. Michal attends a birthday party as an entertainer. She brought a box of her zoo pets, including Avi the snake. The children are a mix of entertained, terrified, and disgusted. Michael picks up Avi from the box and lectures that he isn't harmful to humans. He eats lizards and mice as special treats, but she mostly feeds him frozen chicken. She asks who would like to pet the snake, and a girl named Sarah volunteers. The mother of the celebrant is on supervision and would rather the kids don't go touching slimy snakes. Michal remarks that it's no big deal, but the celebrant's mother refutes it. Michal packs up the animals and receives her pay. The celebrant's mother is curious about how she expects to find a match playing with mice and snakes, as women are made to be delicate. Michal opines she's not so delicate and her perfect match wouldn't mind, but the other woman maintains that no man is looking for otherwise. Michael's next date is with a deaf man, with the matchmaker as the interpreter. She notes she's quite used to unusual at this point and is just trying to see where this leads. Her date wants to know what she does for a living, and she tells him about her mobile petting zoo. She's considering changing jobs as she was told having a snake that eats mice and frozen chicken is not appealing. Her date articulates that she shouldn't have to change her jobs, but wants to know why she's taken a sudden interest in him. They were matched over a year ago. Michal doesn't want to at first, but eventually comes out with the truth. She's truly desperate to find someone. Michal's mother has involved a rabbi because she worries for her daughter. The rabbi lectures that she's counting on miracles, which isn't orthodox of the Jewish religion or community. Not even the saints would approve. Michal counters that she's not obsessed with getting married, and she's only trying to exercise faith in God's plan for her life. She sees a happy ending, and everyone needs to stop worrying about the process. She will find someone in due time. The rabbi wants to know what would happen to her faith if her miracle didn't come to pass. Michal's mother thinks to call Gidi, as her daughter only started spiraling after the engagement was called off. She'd thought her daughter Noam was the problematic child, but Michal is slowly taking the lead. Michal takes a flight to Ukraine. Her destination is Rabbi Nachman's tomb. She joins others to pay her respects and breaks down crying because she's convinced that she's a liar who can't feel God's presence no matter how hard she tries. She wails because she hates that she's been created this way. She suddenly hears a voice from the other side of the wall that startles her. Someone from the men's side, because she's on the women's side of the tomb, asking if she's okay. Michal admits she's anything but okay. She's tired and hungry, and should get going because there's nothing here left for her. The voice on the other side insists on knowing her name, so she finally divulges that it's Michal. Outside, Michal meets Yos, the man at the other end. He's ecstatic about meeting her, especially since it's been a while since he's heard someone boldly admit they're a liar. Michal momentarily thinks she's hallucinating. Because he's cute, right? Definitely a score. Yos promises she's in no dreamland and is curious as to why she believes she's a liar. He was moved by her tears and words, touched by honesty because honesty is the real deal. Michal can't help but smile. expressing that Yas's presence is like a balm she didn't know she needed. He has a gig in Kiev, but his friend Yoni wanted to visit Rabbi Nachman's tomb first. He asks Michal to take a walk with him to meet up with his friend in the car. Michal is hesitant, but Yas wants her to be at ease. He wants to know what made her so sad earlier, but she elucidates that it doesn't matter. She's well now, and it only took a few words. Yas feels she's exaggerating, but she affirms that she isn't. He takes another intriguing look at her and wants to know where she stays. Again, she's hesitant but finally reveals her address in Jerusalem. Yas is happy because it means she won't disappear on him. She doesn't plan to. Michal divulges her grand plan to be married in 12 days, even though she hasn't met a groom yet. Yas thinks she's on substances, but Michal refutes it. She's acting on faith and knows it will come to pass. Just like the rabbi from earlier, Yas asks what she'd do if she were disappointed, but apparently, there's no room for that. The wedding will happen, and she's made preparations for 200 guests. She invites Yas to be a guest and lets on years from now it would be an interesting story to tell their children. She clarified she meant they're separate kids, as she considers him her friend and not her husband-to-be. She isn't trying to scare him away by imposing marriage on him. He admits he was scared, and she wonders if it's so scary to be married to her. He tells her no, then inquires if she'll give in to any man that's willing. She explains the right guy is like her, wanting and understanding what she wants. It's not a case of willingness. Yas announces Michal is an interesting person, but they eventually have to say their goodbyes. It turns out that Yas is a celebrity, and Noam has all of his CDs. Michal relays that it was a brief but intense encounter. Regardless, Noam doesn't want her sister to lose her head over it. One of the two matchmakers has a new match for Michal that ticks all the right boxes, and Michal is open to meeting him as soon as possible. Everyone around Michal is a doubting Thomas, including Shimmy, who is refusing to take her part payment as discussed. He doesn't want to facilitate her madness, but Michal feels that's not up to him to decide. Gidi shows up with something to say, but is too chicken to say it himself, so he whispers it to Shimmy to tell her. She suddenly changes her mind about hearing what Gidi has to say, shouting that the two men keep it to themselves. It's all a dream that startles her awake. She gets up and goes to the kitchen, but hears sobbing from the living room and finds Ziva, her roommate, sobbing while reading one of the holy books. Michal has started moving into her new apartment when Noam comes in with a sense of urgency. She breaks to Michal that Ziva is getting married to Gidi. Ziva had initially called Gidi on Michal's behalf, and it's only been 2 weeks, but it seems that was enough to turn Michal's world upside down. Michal's mother also shows up to console her daughter. They haven't known about the betrayal for long, finding out that day, and coming straight to let Michal know. Michal goes to confront Ziva, who hides behind a closed door to see both Michal and Noam. Michal is livid and not in the right state to talk to Ziva civilly. She ends up breaking the glass to the door Ziva is behind, and a petrified Ziva just wants Noam to take Michal far away. Michal has been put through the ringer, but still has to show up for her latest date with a guy named Asaf. He first comes off as a narcissist who mentions he's a star, and Michal must recognize him. He clarifies it was a joke, and he's actually a faithful Jewish servant of God who's observant. He'd noticed she'd gone pale, and wanted to know why. Michal chooses to explain her dilemma in a poetic way, stating she's losing hope and she's tired, but she will survive. She goes on to give a scenario of the both of them adrift at the sea, but making it to a deserted island with no one else. Should that be the case, she wants to know if they could get along. Would they become the best of friends and be each other's true love? For Asaf, getting along is not enough. Michal is back home using the restroom's mirror to reapply lipstick. Ziva wants to stay out of her way, but Michal is much more calm and doesn't mind sharing the restroom with her. Ziva compliments her looks, and Michal remarks she looks good because she's a bride. Fagi notifies her that someone is here to see her, and she's not going to believe who it is. Lo and behold, it's Yas. Looking as dashing as ever. Michal is beyond surprised to see him. He takes in all the animals, and she explains that she has a mobile petting zoo. It's even more of a reason for her to stand out to him. Cool fact, from her lips to his ears, no man has ever been in her room. Yas decides to take that as an honor. Yas states his reason for coming. He's been thinking about it, and he's ready to settle down with Michal. Michal feels he's pulling a stunt, trying to take advantage of her religious nature for his own thrills. She's reached a stage where she's mentally tired and won't let anyone tread on what's left of her state. He insists that's not the case, but Michal can't bring herself to believe him. She maintains she's on a serious path, and Yas, with his good looks and cool demeanor, is too good to be true. Yas is hurt because he thought they were on the same page. Seeing they're not, he walks out. Michal shows up at the event hall for the food tasting, then meets Shimmy in his office with a request to make some changes to the invitation card, as it may help her connect more. She wants more decorations around the groom's name, which Shimmy has written as Mystery Groom. Michal asks if he normally sleeps at the event hall, and he admits late weddings mean he needs to work overtime. She wants to know what his wife thinks of his late hours, and sometimes having to spend the night at the hall. He reveals that he and his wife are not really on speaking terms. Michal's phone starts to ring, and the matchmaker updates her that Asaf is off the table because Michal freaked him out. She asks if the matchmaker has anyone else, but there's no one else at the moment. Shimmy advises her not to give up on Asaf yet, but Michal can't force his hand into something he doesn't want. Shimmy believes her Hanukkah miracle is possible, but she makes it difficult by putting pressure in all the wrong places. Michal is tired of the doubting and just wants Shimmy to know the wedding plans are still in full swing. Michal has an event to attend in the evening. Noam is with her, commenting that it's nice to see Michal settle into her new apartment. Noam gets a call from her husband, Sagi, and Noam's tone makes Michal raise an eyebrow. It seems they've both been able to put their differences aside. Noam might be imbalanced, but she takes pride in knowing what's going to work out for her. She feels Michal is no different if only she can get her head out of the clouds first. Man Candy, Yas, is on stage performing for a crowd of adoring female fans. His voice is so melodious that a handful of the women are in tears. Both Feige and Michal are part of the crowd. After the show, fans want to take pictures with Yas. Michal asks for an autograph and then his hand in marriage, evoking scuffs from girls standing by. While Yas is happy to see Michal, he wants to know what she wants. She expresses that she never seems to say the right things, and he agrees. She feels hopeless, not knowing what to do, and Yas advises that she just remains herself, as she's full of light. He deems her a player set to win, and in 2 days' time she'll get her desire and be married. Michal tells Feige that it's game over, but Feige disagrees. Michal wants them to head to the beach. While at the beach, Feige reiterates her sister will be married in 2 days. Michal's faith is starting to wane though. She gets a call from Asaf and picks up, stating this has to be a good sign. Asaf mentions she's uptight and hot-headed, but he'd like to see her again. Michal asks if tonight works, but Asaf is off on military service and won't be back till a week later. Michal makes the hardest decision yet. She sticks to her faith. She invites Asaf for the wedding that will be happening in 2 days, even though she doesn't have a groom. Of course, she apologizes for being uptight on their previous date. The wedding cake is ready, and Michal undergoes baptism rites in preparation for her big day tomorrow. Michal's mom feels humiliated that Michal is going through with her nonsense. Ziva shows up, although that's probably not the best idea because Michal might still hold grudges. Michal finishes up the rites, and everyone's mood changes. They've decided they'll support her. She's getting married tomorrow, and a celebration is in tow. Noam puts on music so they can dance. It's the day of the wedding, so all hands are on deck. Feige wakes Michal so she can get dolled up in nice makeup and a beautiful white dress. The van for her mobile zoo has been decorated, so anyone knows. It's made way for the bride. Michal and her sisters drive to the event hall. Michal doses off on the ride there. The guests are waiting, including her mom, who comes out to welcome her with a hug. With assistance from her family, she's led into the hall to take a seat at the sweetheart table. Still no groom, but a lot of stares from the guests. Everyone waits in anticipation for something to happen. Michal's mother can't bear it anymore and excuses herself to step out for some fresh air. Michal is ready to give up, but Feige encourages her to keep believing. Shimmy offers her something to drink, but Michal is fasting. He'd really expected Michal to have a groom for the day and decided they should get married to fulfill her desire. She's been fasting and is dizzy, so she attributes his words to hallucinations. Her mother suggests that the band plays something because the silence is deafening. Shimmy resumes his proposal amidst Michal's being unable to tell what's real and what's a hallucination. He explains that his wife just divorced him, which was only inevitable because they weren't compatible. She didn't want the things he does, but he's proposing now to a woman who does. He wants her to come with him to the chuppah. There they can get married that night. Michal can't get up and follow him anywhere though because she's weak and dizzy. Plus, she thinks he's toying with her. She started something only to end up the biggest doubting Thomas ever. Shimmy insists that his intentions are not out of pity. He remembers the first time he saw her at his mom's place, waiting for her services while she read the Book of Psalms. Yes, he'd noticed her since then, and he'd told himself, should no one else step up to the challenge, then he would. With Michal no longer objecting, Shimmy goes to talk to the rabbi. Her mother and sisters come back, overburdened with worry. Michal announces that the wedding will still be held, because now she has a groom. She tells Noam that the groom is Shimmy. And indeed, Shimmy comes through.